Coming up on Time for Hope.
And even through all the hard times that I was yet to face after leaving that orphanage, my faith is what kept me going. And without that, I don't think I would have been anywhere near who I am today.
Join Dr. Freda Cruz, licensed professional counselor, and her guests as they provide practical solutions to real-life problems on Time for Hope.
Thanks for joining us on Time for Hope, a faith-based mental health program. I'm Dr. Freda Cruz, your host, and I always appreciate having my regular and first-time viewers join me. Today, author, rehabilitation specialist, counselor, adjunct community college instructor, and consultant at Bauer Rehabilitation Consulting Center in Cocoa, Florida, Wanda Bauer joins me. Now, it just means that Wanda is a very busy woman. Wanda is here to discuss her book titled, Please Don't Jump, and you will learn the title comes from Wanda's real life story as she shares about her mother's threat to jump from the Ohio River Bridge, and coming from a home where she witnessed domestic violence, alcoholism, and beatings that eventually robbed her of her eyesight. Wanda relates that recovery and personal growth require forgiveness and moving forward. To hear more, stay with us. And Wanda, you truly are a busy woman. You've been busy getting all that education and all those certifications, and now you're working on your PhD, I understand.
Well, I'm hoping to go back to complete it summer term.
You really are a trophy of God's grace. Reading your book and seeing where you've come from, and that you have followed your own advice that you're giving out, that you've been able to forgive and move forward. You know, I've been acquainted with a lot of mental health professionals, actually, that their childhood and their abuse and coming from an alcoholic family and all of that will identify them, and they keep holding on to it and rehearsing it and holding on to it. And I have always thought, like you're teaching in your book, it's time to forgive, to put the past in the past, that's what I advocate, and live in the present and move forward. Allow it, though, allow it to and admit it's really part of who we are. You can, and who you have become.
Absolutely. You can't, I believe, and this is just my theory, I'm sure, and I'm so happy to know you sharing that holding on to it just brings forth a lot of bitterness, and you're going to miss so much joy. You're just not going to move forward. Being able to forgive, which I did some years ago, I was very blessed. As it states in the book, when I went to the children's orphanage, I was taught there that my parents' alcoholism was a disease, and I always had a great, I guess you might say at that time, curiosity to find out what happened, what got them to where they were, and then realizing their disabilities, and which is why I studied rehab, understanding disabilities, was to find out what brings people to that point in their lives. You know, I'm sure when they had us children, their main goal wasn't, well, let's see if we can just destroy their lives. No, you know, they were dealing with their own issues. My mother was in a lot of pain. Back in that time, we didn't know much about scoliosis, and nor was it given anything for pain. But since she had polio when she was a teenager, along with diphtheria, she had developed the what they called the humpback on her right shoulder, which pushed her curvature to the left. If it had gone inward, she wouldn't have lived in her maybe early 20s, is what the doctor told me later on. But she never had anything to deal with that pain, and scoliosis is so painful. So the more she drank, you know, it just relieved the pain, and then it just led to more drinking.
It doesn't provide, you know, a cop-out. We don't let them, you know, say it's okay for them to do it because it's relieving their pain and stuff. But many alcoholics do self-medicate with alcohol.
Absolutely.
And
yes.
as human services professionals, we know that. And we know that about addiction. We know that about alcohol. We know that about alcoholics. I like the idea that you put out that if we're going to forgive for being harmed or abused by our parents, we need to look at where they've come from. That doesn't mean that we're letting them off the hook.
Absolutely.
But it does explain some of their behavior, because this kind of thing, and some people actually refer to them as curses, generational curses. They are carried on from generation to generation until somebody wakes up and breaks that. You agree with me on that?
Absolutely. As I state in the book, there was my brother, my youngest brother, that's right before me. Him and I were the only two that, out of the 5 children, that didn't become alcoholics. So we could have easily have gone down that path. It was, and I'm sure the same for him, it was our faith that kept us on another path.
You were put into a home for a while, and you became a Christian.
I did. I became a Christian there.
While you were in there. The providence of God, very involved in that, wasn't it?
And even through all the hard times that I was yet to face after leaving that orphanage, my faith is what kept me going. And without that, I don't think I would have been anywhere near who I am today.
You could have ended up on drugs, alcohol, in a dark alley someplace.
Absolutely. And it would have been so easy to drown my sorrows, or to have self-pity, or to gone another path. And I chose to stay faithful and keep moving forward. And that's not saying I didn't make mistakes, because I did, because I also believe, and as you know, as a mental health professional, I didn't have any role models.
I just started to ask if you had any role models that encouraged you or spurred you on to go in this direction. No. And by the way, did your parents divorce eventually, or was it your divorce that you were referring to?
No, my parents never divorced. The divorce I was referring to was between my sister and her first husband, and he was like a father to me. You know, we were all very close to him. So when they divorced, it was just overlooked how that affected us, because I was still, I think I was 17 when they divorced. So it had a big impact.
At what, a very early age, didn't you?
Right, when I married, 15? At 16.
16?
Right.
And had a child by the time you were 17?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I had my 17th birthday in delivery. So and when you don't have role models, I just know that God was always with me, because I was a good mother, and always had to work to help support my family. So when I went from, you know, what I call going from a fire to the frying pan, you know, when I made that step into marriage, I had a really, really hard load ahead of me, because the man I married, the father of my children, was very abusive, and he had his own addictions, which I knew nothing about when we met or when we dated, because he hid them, which we know they can. He had a gambling addiction plus alcohol. The gambling was the worst. The alcohol he kept hidden. So it was quite a hard time.
That marriage lasted how long?
10 years.
But you did have the courage finally to say, I'm not doing this. I'm out of here.
Oh, it got a lot worse.
And then he became more violent, which we know happens very often.
He became very violent, and he tried. His main goal was You know, and this is what I will tell my mothers or women or students. If someone says to you, if I can't have you, nobody will. I tell them to listen up and take this very seriously and to try to put in place a plan. You have to have a plan. And we know ourselves, and we've had it in Brevard County. One of our judges had ordered a couple to do the change of their children at a CBS. And of course the father arrived to pick up his children, got out of his car, walked over and just shot the mother sitting in her car. So you have to listen up. You can't just say, oh, you know, they're just
talking,
angry,
or they're blowing
or
off, yeah.
they'll get over it,
No.
or this will be okay. That's not true. And I found this out the hard way because he did try to take my life. And it's very hard to keep your father where he should be as a father to your children. And I don't know, sometimes I wonder if that is really okay. I believe in not putting a father down to young children. And I did that. And I don't even know where I got that wisdom from, actually. I just had it.
He didn't abuse the children?
No, he didn't, except maybe not supporting, no food, no rent, no stuff. But the thing is, it's very hard that when your children get older, because you've already built this image of their father, for the whole transition to take place, where they realize, well, my father wasn't really the man he should have been. And so sometimes, you know, that can backfire on you.
Yes, I'm one that wants to deal more in truth and reality, not build a case against, but not allow them to deny the reality of the situation. I'm kind of middle of the road there.
Yeah.
I do know your ministry now is directed towards teens and young people, and especially people, even adults that have come from an abusive home or abusive background or alcoholic parents like you have. You are, that's a lot of your work that you do in your counseling and so forth.
What I want to do is help young people to see is, okay, you may be in a bad situation, but keep moving forward. You know, stay focused on your school, because this will pass and you will reach the age where you can move out and be on your own. But what's important is don't fall into the pits where you want to be angry, you want to strike back, you wind up with the wrong peers, and then you're going to wind up with...
You don't have to go in that direction is bottom line.
Absolutely.
Because you've been there, you don't have to continue being there. That doesn't have to identify you for the future. Your past does not have to identify you.
Your past does not have to become your future. Do not own what happened here. Leave that back there.
Leave it where it is and move forward.
And
we've got to go out on a break.
And I think that's education.
Yeah, we can pick up there when we come back, and we'll be right back. Family researchers agree that most of our early learning takes place within the family, and that our personalities emerge as we attempt to adapt, conform, and/or survive within our unique family system. This process includes at least 3 dynamics or forces that can be our best allies or our worst enemies. The first one involves the attempts or failures of our parents or caretakers to nurture, instruct, and discipline discipline us. The second one is the vicarious learning that takes place as we observe the behavior of our parents or caretakers. And the third dynamic is our own unique self, which chooses to align itself with the other two forces or to strike out on its own. Many parents are successful in winning the respect and alliance of their children and seeing them enjoy meaningful and productive lives, while others fail through self-defeating behavioral patterns, sheer neglect, or intentional abuse. Some of you would quickly admit that the latter describes your family history. Does this mean then that you are destined for failure or that you don't measure up to other people? Does it mean that you have to hang your head in shame? Does this give you a good excuse for engaging in self-destructive behavior? No. Instead of believing these myths, accept the challenge to become the unique person you were created to be in spite of what your parents or caretakers did or did not do. All of us are flawed. There are no perfect families, and it is true that many people have unbelievable stories of shame and pain related to their families. But there is hope. Through a relationship with the Lord Jesus Christ, we are birthed by the Holy Spirit into a new family with royal genes. In this family, God, our heavenly parent, esteems us as persons of worth, is loving and consistent with his discipline, and is an impeccable role model. Belonging to the family of God can foster healing, recovery, and realization of our potential and dreams. How great is the love the Father has lavished on us, that we should be called children of God. Now, if we are children, then we are heirs of God and co-heirs with Christ. And mothers, in recognition of your day, I challenge you to accept the awesome responsibility that God has given you by entrusting children to your care. You can be the mother that He would have you be by acknowledging that you need His help and guidance. All you have to do is ask and trust Him. He will be there for you. I appreciate you staying with us on Time for Hope. Our guest for today is Wanda Bauer, and we're talking about her book, Please Don't Jump. Now, Wanda, what we know and what I want our viewers to know about your book is that when you say please don't jump, it has to do with your mom threatening suicide by jumping from the Ohio River Bridge. That was an awful thing for you to witness, wasn't it? How old were you at the time?
I was 9.
And you pleaded with her. Finally got your father to go with you because you knew that she was gone with that intention. And you pleaded with her, please don't jump, please don't jump. That would be like PTSD, post-traumatic stress, for those memories to come back and you remember that. And I'm sure you will never forget that, even though we're talking about putting those kinds of things in the past. But it's a memory etched in your brain forever, I'm sure.
Yet that among many.
Among
many,
yes.
yes.
Now, what's the difference in now and when those memories first started flooding? I know you went back to your hometown and the memories, it touched off the memories. What's the difference now and then?
Well, I think a friend of mine, she's from Cincinnati also, and she had like a similar background. And whenever either one of us, we talked about this approach the city, when you come around on 75 through Covington, Kentucky, and then the whole city opens up in front of you, I get an uneasy feeling, and she says she does the same thing. It's because the city does hold, even though it's a wonderful city, it really is, and I love the city itself, but those memories set within those cities. Like my brother, Jimmy, the one, he just passed away in 2009. He could never go back. After we buried my father, he never returned to Cincinnati again because it was just too painful for him. I've made myself go back, and I've lived there. And of course, I was the one that was left behind and cared for my two parents before they passed away. And then when my mother passed away, she was with my brother Bobby in Louisiana. But it was very difficult, but I never hated my parents. I loved my parents.
In spite of,
right? I loved my parents and took care of them, and took care of my dad when he died and buried him. And same with my mom. I mean, there was three of us that took care of her near the end, and I had 11 years to really know her. She stopped drinking, except she maybe had, because of a vocal cord problem, she would drink 1-2 beers in the evening, and really got to know her, to know who she was. And she was a wonderful person, and I had those 11 years.
And you grew, and you say that in your book, you grew as a person by being able to forgive and take care of those abusive parents. So were you able to get the relationship, was it ever discussed, the abuse? And she would know that if she ever thought about it, that she was forgiven by your behavior towards her.
No, I don't think we ever attacked her. To me, that would have been cruel.
Of course,
and unchristian.
And they never understood that they had harmed you or done wrong, or you don't think they did?
Well, I just think they did the best they could with what they had the strength to do with. And that's why I say it's so important to research and find out what was happening in their lives,
or what had happened
what
in
was
their
the
lives.
circumstances, and research it before you just take it all out of proportion. Try to have some understanding, try to have some compassion.
Yes, but there's something about the person that does
there is
it.
a limit.
Yeah, being able to say, I'm sorry, or I would have done it differently. And even little things, I can remember my dad, things that I would remind him of that he would have said or done with my sister and myself, and he would say, if I had it to do over again, I would not do it. In other words, I'm sorry, and it wasn't bad. It wasn't the kind of thing that you're talking about. Sure. But
I would love to back up and have the education I have today, and had the opportunity to be able to have this education and had to apply that with my children.
Yes.
But it just wasn't to be. But to move forward and keep educating yourself and keep growing forward, I think you're able to pass it on.
Yeah, and you chose not to be an alcoholic. You chose not to abuse your children. You chose to get, and that's, any situation, we can choose to allow it to make us bitter or better. Anybody has that choice.
Absolutely.
We become bitter as a result of it, or we can become better. And you have chosen to become better. And I liked the way that you set out for parents now, with their children, about the discipline, the 4 C's, the communication, the consistent, the commitment, the control, the R's, the children accepting responsibility, learning respect, learning the consequences of the broken rules, and finally, you can be a successful parent. So that's what you're engaged in mostly today, isn't it?
Yes, and that formula I always used that in the divorce class that I taught. And being able to have that formula and to apply that formula with your children, it's going to help your children be successful.
Yes.
Because unless they can
break the
reach,
curse, as it
That's
were, and
right.
keep it from going down another generation.
Absolutely.
It's great having you on Time for Hope. I
you.
encourage our viewers to make sure they get a copy of your book, especially if they know someone or they themselves experienced the things that you did as a child, and I would encourage them to get a copy of the book. And again, I say thank you so much for coming on Time for Hope.
Thank you for having me.
And I have a couple of things to share with you. I'd like to share with you a couple of things from our viewers, so I want you to stay with me. Dear Dr. Freda, I enjoyed your program and recent interview so very much that I'm enclosing a check for the DVD of the program. I have several family members who do not have cable, and I want them to be able to watch the program. May the Lord bless you. And that is a very encouraging note, and we appreciate the encouraging notes that come in, as well as the prayer requests that you trust us and share with us. So have one of those also. Dear Dr. Freda, please pray for me and my family. I have had a history of child sexual abuse and suffer from post-traumatic stress. My husband is also going through a lot of problems. We are estranged from the rest of the family. And again, we have taken this prayer request to our Heavenly Father, with whom there is intervention, recovery, healing, whatever the need is. And there would be a need for healing and recovery for this person who experienced sexual child abuse. So we are praying that we will hear that God is bringing that needed healing. Again, that is the mission and the vision of Time for Hope. I believe that is what God has this ministry for, and has us for this ministry, so that we can help those that are going through the various kinds of real life situations and still come out with hope because of our Heavenly Father, because of a God who knows all about it and is able and willing to intervene, to give hope and to give help. We want to give hope in any and all situations. Would you join us as a team member in helping us with this ministry, as there are great expenses involved, and you could help us financially? Ask the Lord if He would have you do that. We would greatly appreciate hearing from you and knowing that God would have you share with us financially.
We hope that today's Time for Hope program has been helpful and inspirational to you and your family. As a token of our appreciation for joining us, we would like to offer you a one-page fact sheet which contains additional information on today's topic. Log on to our website at timeforhope.org to view and print our fact sheet. Or you can call us at 1-800-669-9133 and we will send it to you free of charge. To get a copy of today's book for a suggested donation of $15 or more, which includes shipping and handling, log on to our website at timeforhope.org. You may also call us at 1-800-669-9133, or you can write us at P.O. Box 2169, Spartanburg, South Carolina, 29304. Until next time, have a great week, and remember, it is time for hope.